Hey friends, Katie here from Equestrian Movement, and today we're going to be talking about groundwork. Groundwork. Why do I always have to do groundwork? So when we're working with our horses, if we have ruled out reasons of behavioural issues due to pain and being able to relax and feel safe, the next thing that we're looking at is, does your horse know how to learn? And this is a really big gap that I see in a lot of horses. Their learning process gets rushed and we just want to ride. So we forget that the horses actually need to learn how to learn and to learn how to process cues so that they know what the answer is, so that we don't have a reactive horse that doesn't know what the answer is, that is getting super stressed and anxious, and so that they can also confidently seek the behaviors that we're asking of them. And then, you know what, everything in the saddle gets so much easier, because if we've effectively cued into a horse the language and they know how to seek the language and communicate back to us, then riding gets like significantly easier, hands down. If you think about, when we're teaching our dog to sit, if you, like, the first time you tell it to sit, it's like, tail wagging, like, doesn't know what to do. Oh, you're playing with me. What are we up to? What are we doing? It has no idea that you're asking it to sit or that you're asking it to do anything in general. And so through repetitions of the behavior and the cue, they start to learn that there is a desired response to the ask. And then they get confident in what the answer to that ask is. And so then we can move into the next cue, maybe lie down, maybe roll over, maybe shake. And so over a period of time, we're going to build out this language with our dogs. Can you imagine if we went straight from zero training, zero understanding of learning how to seek answers and cues into trying to teach our dogs how to herd sheep or do agility or dance with us, like the dance movements that they do in those dog dancing videos. They'd have no idea, and then they get stressed, they get frustrated, they don't understand what's the answer, and so we end up with reactive animals because they don't know what's expected of them, they don't know how to seek reward. We get frustrated, and then our pressure often escalates into positive punishment accidentally, and then it just turns into a big old mess. So we're going to talk a little bit today about some behaviors that we're going to see when our horse is learning. So this is Senny. We're going to be having a look at some of his behaviors that he's going to show us while he's learning. And so we're doing a super simple task. The easiest exercises to introduce are basically one-word responses to an ask. So targeting is a fun one because we can also include treats, which are a high motivation, high reward to engage their interest in learning. So he's showing us some fairly relaxed body language here, and also that we need to do some work on his top line before anybody thinks about sitting on his back. But he's also showing us some nice connection cues. Some of it is a little bit of frisking, obviously, but we're also getting some nice licking, and that is a good indication that he feels safe with us and he doesn't feel threatened by us. His head is still slightly higher than his wither, so he's not feeling completely relaxed, but we're seeing the way that he's standing, he's like not currently holding tension through his spine, through his back. That would suggest that he feels unsafe. So we can see a little bit of frustration behaviors there when we're walking him and he's following my lead, when the ears start pinning and it turns into a little bit more of a chase. But he is coming back around and he's re-engaging in the ask. And this is, one of the reasons why I do like the treats is if you can keep them under threshold from getting overstimulated, you're going to end up with, being able to shift some of the angstiness out of them into a more engaged and enthusiastic and willing response. So he knows what the answer is to the question, then he's like quite engaged and enthusiastic to give the behavior, But when he's just following me around, we're seeing those frustration behaviors. A little bit of boundaries and manners here when we're doing our treat training. I want him to be respectful of my bubble and not be inside it. And I want him to not be frisking me for treats so that he can work on concentrating and focusing on the ask. So we've got space, right? This is the great part about treat training, is that it gives space for the horse to process the ask and to process the emotional response to the ask. So you can see that little tail swish there where he was getting a little bit irritated with me, telling him not to frisk him. And then he showed us some nice self-regulation, emotional agility skills, and flicked the tension out of his tail. And now we're seeing, you know, a little bit more sign of relaxation with that engagement with him resting the leg. So you can see how just asking our horses out of our bubble can get them feeling a little bit offended there, right? It can be a little bit rude to step into them like that. But we're going to be having these conversations because we're always cycling through boundaries connect, boundaries connect, boundaries connect, boundaries connect. Give direction, give praise, give direction, give praise, give direction, give praise. And then we're going to make the answer easier for them so that they can get an immense sense of task achievement, so that we're going to keep them engaged in the conversation and in the ask. And you see again here where there is pinned and the lip curls. Again, it's when we're walking on the lead there. And he's starting to get a hang of not frisking me when he asks. You could see him process that, right? Where he was like a bit standoffish, and then he sorted himself out and came around again. So you can see that he doesn't really know the answer to the cue away from with the whip. You can see that he's not enthusiastically engaged in walking on the halter. So these are the kinds of things that we're going to work on, especially if we want to sit on his back, because a lot of the conversations that we have in the saddle are pressure release, and so we're seeing some nice relaxation, some self-regulation here. So this is what we tend to see in a horse that has had some riding and some education, is that they do have some self-regulation skills when they're starting to get frustrated and irritable. But you can see that he doesn't really know what the answer to pressure is. He doesn't know how to move away from it and how to seek the release of it very much. And you can see where he protests and he resists and he fights and he pushes into the pressure. So if the pressure has been used as a power over conversation instead of it as a tool, and the tool is a word and the word is away from, then we're going to be antagonizing conflict and argument in our horse instead of just showing them that it's a word, just like this word touch here is. So when you watch his body languages there, you can see where he goes from enthusiastically engaged, if a little bit frisky when we're doing our treat training, to you know, quite grumpy when we're doing our pressure training, trying to push over the top of me, trying to push into me. It's one of the things that I quite typically see in association with pressure, is if pressure has been used as a tool of escalation. So we're using the pressure and we're using it in a way that our horse is seeking relief from the pressure. So, you know, what is motivating your horse to give you that behavior? When we're using pressure, if we're using the motivation as relief from pressure, how uncomfortable or scary or painful does that pressure have to be for relief from it to be motivating to the horse? So that's why in our holistic horse handling skills, we are going to use, you know, a spectrum of our tools that are in our toolkit. By the time we're in the saddle, we are using a lot of pressure. Like all of our conversations are pressure conversations with regards to bit pressure and leg pressure and seat and weight distribution. So if our horses aren't engaged and enthusiastic and willingly seeking pressure to seek direction from us, if they're barging through pressure, if they think that it's us picking an argument with them, if they see it as antagonistic and creating conflict, then how how can we have clear communication and conversations in the saddle? And so this is the point of our groundwork, right? Our horse here, he feels safe to relax. He's quite happy taking direction from me, but his communication and cueing skills, he doesn't have a good relationship to pressure. So we're gonna end up having to escalate that pressure for control and submission, and then that's when we're gonna start seeing behavioral issues, rather than having a horse that's seeking it for direction and seeking it for conversation with us. So that's it for me for today. Until next time, happy trails.